Now then, I hope you're all doing well. I've not been well over the past couple of days since Scare Amazing. I'm just coming off the back end of, I don't really know what, to be honest, but I'm really not feeling great. But I really wanted to get my DAZ Games Panic review out, as I really do think it warranted a review. To be fair, it was probably the only maze out of Scarefest 2023 at Towers that I generally felt was worth talking about. So I'm going to play you the trailer, I guess you could call it, for DAZ Games. So yeah, check it out.
How's it going, Dazzlers? And welcome to Panic. In the rise of AI, I think this is an appropriate game to play. You'll have 7 minutes to escape panic. Don't get lost now. Don't panic.
I do want to add that I actually checked out DAZ Games Panic during an event that I was at, which was Scare Amazing by Towers Times and Attraction Source. So for the event itself, I paid, I think, £45. For that, we got all mazes included. It was meant to be for 1 hour, however, it was a little bit longer, but we did get a run through of every maze. During the afternoon, we had a talk by Bianca Samut. I always feel like I butcher her name, so I'm sorry if I have. She is the divisional director at Alton Towers. We also, with that talk, we also had Chris Carter, who is the director of entertainment well, he's for Merlin, but he currently is based at Alton Towers. And then in the evening, we had a behind the scenes of DAZ Games Panic, which only lasted around 15 minutes. However, you'll probably figure out why it didn't last too long as I explain my review. But let's get into it. So as it came around to our turn to do DAZ Games Panic during the exclusive maze time, we entered the queue line. There's not a lot of theming in the queue line or across the attraction, to be honest. There's a lot of white mannequins placed around with no real reference to why they're there. However, during our talk with Chris Carter, he did explain that those white mannequins are known as the unrendered. This experience or attraction is meant to be basically a video game created by DAZ Black, where it's been kind of glitched or turned or twisted by AI or artificial intelligence to become this sort of horror experience. So that's why the white mannequins are all placed around this attraction, but there's no reference to that in there, which is a bit of a shame. We had to learn that from this talk. Anyway, we got through the queue line. We got to a container where the host gave us some pink wristbands, RFID wristbands, which you use during the maze itself. We entered into this container. We had to scan the wristbands on a scanner that just said scan. It turned white, well, as it was scanning, then it turned green when it was done. You then entered your name into a tablet, and after that, it gave you 2 symbols. These 2 symbols you have to remember during the experience because you have to find them to get out of the maze, as this is a sort of escape room experience. As you've done that, you exit that container to get into another little batching queuing area. All these little sections are just used to stagger each group. Then you entered into another container. This container was quite long with about 4 different entranceways and lots of TVs. As you entered, it was saying loading players on the TVs, and it was showing each player's different symbols, just as a quick reference before the game starts. To be honest, you need it because then you've got to sit through a 5-minute or longer pre-show, which really doesn't need to be that long. It's kind of explaining who DAZ Black is and what he does. For anyone who doesn't know, he's a YouTuber with over 8 million subscribers. I said on my video during Scare Amazing it was 2 million. I looked it up today. It's not. It's like 8 point something. So quite a large following, obviously. At the end of this extremely stupidly long period of a pre-show, which just isn't needed at all, please change that. A load of an actor pops out of each door, kind of welcoming you into the maze. at that point, it's kind of just a free-for-all. Everyone just splits off because everyone has different symbols, so you're not with your group. In there, I have to admit, there's not a lot of theming. It's just a lot of chain link fences, a lot of black draped cloth. The actors themselves are only kind of, it's like a boiler. It's not a boiler suit, but I guess I'll just use the term boiler suit really. With a mask. These masks change throughout the experience. Obviously it's a 7-minute experience, so I don't know if it's every minute or so that they change the mask. The audio kind of tells you when that's happening as well. But as I entered the maze, obviously I was straight trying to find my symbols, which were triangle and stopwatch. Quite a lot of dead ends in there as well. So anyway, I found triangle, I scanned it, it turned green, I'd got the symbol. I have to admit, I got quite a few good jump scares in there. There was one point where I walked around the corner, it was very, very dark, and the next thing I know, there was someone in my face. That really, really got me. It's quite a fun experience because you're obviously seeing everyone else wander around trying to find their symbols as well. So I actually got jump scared by a couple of the people who were in the event, not actors. Then I ended up finding my stopwatch. I actually at first thought something's wrong here because I was scanning it and it wasn't doing anything. I later, during the behind the scenes, found out that above it actually said scan the band or something for 10 seconds, but I couldn't actually see that during the maze because it was quite dark, and I'm sure it was also just a black cloth covering it up. But I think that's done on purpose so that you're obviously like, what's going on? What do I do? The idea of it being called panic, not don't panic. But I was like, what's going on? What's going on? It's not working. Anyway, eventually I got it scanned after holding it for so long. I thought it was just broken. And then I had to go and find the exit, which was probably the longest part because I just didn't know where it was. Anyway, I eventually saw this big sign as I went around this corner that said exit. And I ran up to the exit, and there was a woman stood there at host. And she basically just pointed at this scanner to her right. And I had to scan it. It turned green and she allowed me out of the maze. I completed the maze in 2 minutes and 40 something seconds. I was the first person in our group of about 20 plus people to get out of the maze first. So outside, once you exit, you come out into this mini little courtyard where there's 2 leaderboards. You've got one for the current game that's going on, which when I came out, there was only me on the leaderboard. I got first. And then on the left, there was like a best of the fest. So you had like the best of the day, the best of the week, and the best of all time. And you also had a little mini merch shop. I didn't actually think I'd buy any merch, but it was very cold. This hat was £15, but with 20% mailing discount, it was £12. So I decided to buy it, and I really did enjoy the attraction. So that's basically the attraction itself over and done with. Obviously, everyone else followed me out afterwards after they'd completed. Some people didn't finish, so they were in there for the full 7 minutes. The one thing I'll say is, and I think this is a problem, and I said this to Chris Carter after the talk, is that some people, if depending on what symbol you got, some people had to do quite difficult games. They weren't difficult, really. For example, we got to see all of the games during the behind the scenes. So, for example, one of the symbols, I didn't get this symbol, was you went into a pretty much pitch black room with just a scanner. You had to scan the band. You then had to push a button that was behind you, right on the bottom of the wall. You had to push that, and then I don't know if you had to scan the band again. So it's really kind of the luck of the draw of what symbols you got, because some people got a harder experience compared to myself, who got out rather simply. I think that's the only reason I got out so quick. Some people did say that they weren't rushing to get out because they wanted to experience the full thing, but to be honest, the idea of it is to escape as quickly as possible. So I think I got a little bit competitive in my own head, and I was like, I am getting out of this first, which I did. The experience itself, though, was really, really fun. I really enjoyed the idea of the mixture of a scare maze with an escape room. It wasn't overly scary for my liking. However, it was just fun. It was, the actors would try and like get you into corners and to try and slow you down from getting out, but they wouldn't touch you. But they were there to try and stop you from getting out. So yeah, it was great fun having to kind of avoid the actors whilst trying to find your symbols. I know that the maze itself got very hit and miss reviews. For me personally, I think that it's a great experience. I think it's fun. I think if there was to be changes made, they need to add more games to every symbol, or at least just add a game to every symbol, because it felt a little bit. It feels like some people are going to get an easy experience and a very quick experience, whereas some people might struggle with the games that they're given. I think add a few more actors in there. I think try and make it, if you could, make it a little bit more hands-on. I know apparently on opening day of this experience, the actors were very hands-on, but that was taken away. I feel like if the actors just pulled you away from scanners and things like that, not heavily, not like pulling you by your feet or anything like that, but I do think that could be a little bit more of an aspect to it. The actors actually trying to properly prevent you from even just scanning your wristband. Not continuously, but just in passing, I guess you could say. I think it would be a really cool idea as well to actually bring an incentive to the leaderboards. For example, I know that we have the best of the fest, which has the best of the day, the best of the week, and the best of all time. It would be really cool if for each category of that, even for the end of the day, that you could maybe give a piece of merch based on DAZ Games to that person if they stay at the top of the leaderboard for the day, for the week, or for at the end of the festival. I just think that'd be a really cool idea. Even if it's just for the day you get a pop badge, for the week you get a drink container, and at the end you might get a hoodie or a hat. I don't know, something like that. That would be a really cool way to actually draw customers to come back to it as well. Obviously, each time they get a different set of symbols, so they're not always going to know where the symbols are. You might go through a different doorway into the maze, which might throw you off a little bit. But overall, the experience I really enjoyed. During my Scare Amazing video, I rated it a 9 out of 10, and I'm going to stick with that. There are improvements to be made. Chris Carter kind of said that himself, that he knows that there are things that they would change. I don't think DAZ Black needs to be directly involved with it. I think that Towers could probably do that standalone, based around one of their attractions. I think that it worked very well with the Smiler, for example. Not to say that DAZ Black, I have a problem with DAZ Black. I don't watch his content. I didn't know who he was before this attraction. I understand the reason why they've decided to use DAZ Black, or at least because DAZ Black got in touch with with Merlin, or at least I think it was Merlin or Alton Towers. He has an 8 million plus subscriber count on YouTube. That's going to draw in a significant amount of people to come and just experience that alone. I mean, he was there on opening day of Scarefest and the attraction, and I'm sure a lot of his fans were there as well. So if that draws in the crowds, then I can understand why Alton Towers decided to go with that. But yeah, overall a 9.10 from me. I really enjoyed it. It needs its improvements, but going forward, I could see this being a really good attraction for Alton Towers, and also just maybe in general across other Merlin attractions. Maybe this unique style could be implemented elsewhere. For example, survival games down at Thorpe Park. It could be kind of cool to maybe look at implementing something like this to get out of there. Which survival games is kind of based around Squid Games, I guess you could say. So that would be a really cool implementation. But anyway, if you've stayed this long during the review, I really do appreciate it. And thank you very much. But yeah, peace.